California. 1938. Dawn light cutting through an apricot orchard. A farmer tears open a small paper envelope. Inside, not seeds, not powder. Thousands of living wasps, each one smaller than a grain of rice. He releases them into the trees. Within 2 weeks, 90% of the pests destroying his crop are gone. No spray, no residue, no reapplication. It works, and he's not alone. Across California, Texas, Florida, farmers are ordering these by mail. The USDA is promoting it. Extension agents are writing bulletins on timing and release rates. Commercial insectaries are shipping millions of these insects every season. This isn't fringe, this is American agriculture. Then it vanishes. Not because it failed, not because the science was wrong, because it couldn't be sold twice. A pesticide you spray every week is a product. A living system that reproduces itself and solves the problem permanently? That's a threat to the business model, and when a solution doesn't need a supply chain, the supply chain makes sure you forget it existed. So what was it? Something alive. Something that hunts. You release it once, and it finds the pest eggs before they hatch. It doesn't spray the plant. It doesn't coat the soil. It goes directly to the source, lands on a leaf, detects a pest egg by scent, and injects its own egg inside. The pest never makes it to the larval stage, never chews a leaf, never becomes the problem. And here's the part that broke the system. It reproduces. Every pest it kills creates more of the solution. It scales itself. Compare that to what you're doing right now, spraying your tomatoes every week, watching aphids come back 3 days later, spending $50 a season on bottles that say kills on contact, but never say keeps them gone. You're tired of it. Your soil smells like chemicals. Your hands smell like chemicals. You're not even sure if you should let your kids near the garden after you spray. If you're exhausted by the chemical treadmill, stay with me for 60 more seconds. What I'm about to show you was used by your great-grandparents, and it worked better than anything at the garden center today. We're talking about biological pest control, specifically parasitic wasps and beneficial insect release programs. Welcome to Forgotten Nature Vault, where we dig up the living systems modern life taught you to forget. This was mainstream American agriculture. The USDA promoted it. Land-grant universities published guides on it. Farmers ordered these insects by mail the same way they ordered seeds, from catalogs with seasonal timing charts and species recommendations. Trichogramma wasps for moth pests, lacewings for aphids, predatory mites for spider mites. It wasn't experimental, it was infrastructure. Then the EPA made it nearly impossible, not illegal, just regulated into obscurity, expensive to certify, hard to distribute, stigmatized as unreliable. And an entire generation of farmers and gardeners grew up never knowing this existed. But before it was erased, it had a long history, a proven history. Let's go back. The year is 304 CE. A Chinese agricultural text describes farmers moving colonies of weaver ants into citrus orchards. The ants patrol the trees, they hunt pest insects, they protect the fruit. 1,700 years of documented biological pest control. Not a footnote, a tradition. Fast forward to 1888. California's citrus industry is collapsing. A pest called cottony cushion scale is destroying orchards across the state. Farmers are losing everything. The USDA sends an entomologist to Australia. He returns with a beetle, the Vidalia beetle. It eats the scale insect. Within 2 years, the pest is under control. The citrus industry is saved. No chemicals. A beetle. By the 1920s, this approach has a name: biological control. And it's scaling. The USDA promotes parasitic wasp releases. Commercial insectaries open in California, Texas, Florida. Farmers receive timing guides, species charts, release instructions. Trichogramma wasps become a staple. Tiny parasitoids that lay their eggs inside moth and butterfly pest eggs. The wasp larva hatches inside the pest egg, consumes it from the inside, emerges as an adult wasp, finds more pest eggs. The cycle continues. One release can suppress 85 to 95% of pest populations. Season-long control, no reapplication. It was working. It was infrastructure. And then the war ended. 1945, World War II ends. Chemical manufacturers have a problem. They've spent years refining nerve agents, pesticides, synthetic compounds for warfare. Now they need peacetime markets, DDT becomes the answer, marketed as a miracle. One spray, total kill. Fast, easy, shelf-stable. You don't need to know the pest's life cycle. You don't need timing. You just spray. By 1947, chemical companies are buying full-page ads in farm journals. Modern farming demands modern solutions. The message is clear. Biological control is primitive. Chemicals are progress. Insectaries. Start closing. By 1950, most are gone. But here's the part nobody explains. This wasn't just marketing, it was incentives. Biological control is a one-time purchase. You release the wasps, they reproduce. They handle the next generation of pests, you're done. Chemical pesticides? You spray every week, every season, every time resistance builds and the old formula stops working. It's a subscription model built into agriculture. And you can't patent a wasp species, but you can patent a chemical formula. The global pesticide market today is worth $70 billion. Biological control? A fraction of that. Fast forward to 1972. The EPA is founded. Finally, regulation for pesticides. But here's the turn. The Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, FIFRA, treats biological agents like chemicals. Living organisms now need the same registration process as synthetic poisons. Each species requires separate approval. Testing, data. Costs run between $1 million and $3 million per organism. Chemical pesticides, many already on the market, get grandfathered in. Biological agents have to prove they're safe, even though they've been used for decades, even though they're native insects. Extension services shift their funding. Chemical recommendations become standard. Biological control gets a footnote if it's mentioned at all. The stigma builds, too complicated, unreliable, not modern. And the infrastructure collapses. Insectaries need cold storage, live shipping, precise timing windows. Chemicals sit on a shelf for years. Convenience wins. But the consequences? Over 500 insect species are now resistant to pesticides. Farmers are trapped on a treadmill. New chemicals every few years as the old ones fail. Soil degradation, pollinator collapse, water contamination, runoff into rivers, wells, drinking water, and cultural amnesia. An entire generation of agronomists graduates without ever learning how biological control works. The system didn't fail, it was buried. Here's what nobody tells you. The reason your garden pesticides stop working after 2 seasons isn't because the bugs are stronger. It's because you're locked into a system designed to fail. Your grandparents didn't deal with this. They used living solutions that got better over time, not worse. If you're tired of rebuying the same poison every spring, if you've got kids or pets playing in that yard, if you're spending more on chemicals than seeds, subscribe. Because what comes next is how to break out. And share this with anyone still buying pesticides at the big box. They need to see this. So why is this still niche? Because the barriers didn't go away. Crop insurance policies favor approved chemical schedules. If you deviate and lose yield, you might not get paid. Subsidies don't cover biological agents. They cover chemicals. And there's no shelf life. You can't buy a jar of wasps in March and use them in July. They're alive. They need to be released when the pest is at a specific life stage, usually when eggs are present but before larvae hatch. That requires knowledge, observation, timing. Chemicals are one size fits all. Biologicals ask you to pay attention, but the science never stopped. UC Davis and Cornell have published studies in the last decade showing 80 to 90% efficacy using beneficial insects in strawberries, grapes, greenhouse crops. Europe is ahead. In the Netherlands and France, over 60% of greenhouse production uses biological pest control as the primary method. The organic sector is catching up. The global market for biological pest control is projected to hit $8 billion by 2025, and you can access it right now. Companies like Rincon Vitova, Koppert, and Arbico Organics ship live insects to your door. Trichogramma wasps for moth pests, lacewings for aphids, predatory mites for spider mites. Cost? About $20 to $40 for season-long control. Compare that to $50 plus in repeated chemical sprays. It works in greenhouses, orchards, raised beds, container gardens. You don't need a farm. You need one pest problem you're tired of losing to. We're running out of chemicals that work. Pest resistance is evolving faster than the R&D labs can keep up. The treadmill is accelerating, and at some point, it stops. The 1938 farmer standing in that apricot orchard with a paper envelope in his hand, he knew something we forgot. He knew you don't fight biology with chemistry, you fight it with better biology. And you don't need a farm to use this. You need a tomato plant, a rose bush, a single pest problem you're tired of losing to. It feeds itself. It evolves with the pest. It asks you to pay attention. Picture it. A wasp smaller than a grain of rice, landing on a leaf in the morning light. She's carrying the solution inside her body. She'll lay her eggs in the pest eggs. Her offspring will emerge and do the same. The system never failed. We just built an economy that couldn't profit from it. But the wasps are still here. The knowledge is still here, and it works in your backyard the same way it worked in 1938. This is Forgotten Nature Vault. We remember what they tried to make you forget. Send this to one person who would actually use it.